Good idea. Rebooting the Animaniacs with the original cast and crew. Bad idea. Rebooting the Animaniacs for a cheap cash grab. Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Hey guys, we're your hosts, M and J. And today we wanted to take a look at the Animaniacs reboot. Animaniacs was a comedy from the 90s, with a large ensemble cast that would do parodies and skits. And the two of us really enjoyed it when it was first airing. It had a lot of wit and charm. We weren't sure what to expect from the reboot, but we were trying to be optimistic. At least they got the original voice actors back, and they kept the original designs for the characters, which is appreciated. Unfortunately, the final product wasn't very good. Watching it just felt like there was something off about it. Comedy is pretty subjective, but the jokes just weren't landing for us, and it seemed like it was really missing the spunk it originally had. It turns out that even though they got the original voice actors back, they didn't bring back the original writing team and even excluded the creator of Animaniacs himself, Tom Ruegger, and it shows. Animaniacs has always used meta humor, and they seem to be trying to take advantage of this by pointing out that they're doing this reboot as a cash grab. It's one of the most prominent jokes in their trailers, and it features heavily in the show itself. They sing a song about it, but none of that money is going to the creator or the original team, so Warner Brothers is exploiting this property. They didn't even bother telling the creator that they were rebooting it. He had to find out from Maurice LaMarche, one of the voice actors. They probably think that openly admitting the fact that they're doing this for money is charming, but really it just makes them look like jerks because they know what they're doing is scummy, but they're doing it anyway. I think the creator's son Nate Ruegger said it best. The naked greed on display here to reboot a series without involving any of the original creative team so they can make more money and then joke about it is gross. It's really unfortunate to see companies pull this kind of behavior. The Rueggers are continuing to advocate to bring the original team back, so hopefully Warner Brothers will listen to them, because the first season left a lot to be desired. The original Animaniacs featured a large cast of colorful characters, so there were a variety of sketches following these characters and their stories, but in the new season, almost all the cast is removed, with only the Warners and Pinky and the Brain remaining, with maybe a couple of exceptions. This ends up leading to the Warners having to carry the entire show, with most of the episodes having a Warner segment, a Pinky and the Brain segment, and then another Warner segment. By episode 5, they admit that they've run out of ideas, and point out that there used to be a much bigger cast and the show didn't rely so heavily on the Warners. Again, it feels like they're trying to be cute or meta by admitting that they've run out of ideas, but there's no real reason for them to be out of ideas so soon. They had plenty of material to work with and draw from, and they just didn't take any of it, which as far as I know was their own choice. They removed segments like Wheel of Morality, which actually was a Warner segment, so I'm not sure why it was removed. I mean, there's a free segment right there. They don't even have to do a lot of work. It basically writes itself. Plus, there was no reason to cut all these segments, like Good Idea, Bad Idea, a segment that also writes itself. There were several news articles talking about how some of the characters were removed purposely, like Minerva Mink and Hello Nurse, because they were viewed as being problematic, but they're not the only characters who are missing. Why were Slappy and Skippy removed? Or Rita and Runt? It feels like they were trying to just get some internet points and pretend there was a reason to remove these characters, when they actually just didn't care and wanted to make some quick cash, and maybe didn't feel like writing for all these characters. Plus, there's a segment where there's a woman who's wearing a very sheer top, and then she French kisses her dog at the end of the segment for a very, very long time. It's extremely uncomfortable. So Hello Nurse is offensive, but this isn't? For all the talk of Minerva Mink being offensive, she does have a cameo, so why is she here at all? And Hello Nurse is name dropped. She joined Doctors Without Borders. It feels like these articles are just them trying to capitalize on current trends in the industry, and they were trying to make excuses about why these characters are missing, but this excuse doesn't work with most of the characters. Why is Colin gone? Because all these characters are no longer in the show, they had to change the theme song, since the theme song introduced a lot of the cast, so instead they have a line about how they have new characters who tested well in focus groups. In the later episodes of this season, they do have new segments that don't feature the Warners or Pinky and the Brain, but I don't think these new characters can stand up to the ones we lost, and I found these segments to be pretty forgettable, like this Mark Zuckerberg type character who was trying to become immortal and accidentally turned himself into a gnome, and now he lives in people's mouths for some reason. We lost Slappy and Skippy for this. Or this little alien guy who's trying to take over the world but got captured by a little girl and now she won't let him go. We already have Pinky and the Brain. Do we need him? It feels like since they cut all these sketches, they're limiting themselves to meta and political humor humor, and it really feels like they put themselves in a box for no reason. They prioritized being trendy, which is an issue because in a meta joke they admit that this is being written in 2018, but they know that it's going to come out in 2020, so they're trying really hard to be relevant to current trends and politics, but they're 2 years behind. 2020 is a very strange and tumultuous year that's also already been memed to death even though the year isn't actually over yet, so saying that their attempts to be relevant end up falling flat is an understatement. Like they talk about fidget spinners, and they have a skit that takes place in a movie theater. I can forgive the movie theater one because who could have predicted how crazy 2020 was gonna be, but they probably should have known that fidget spinners weren't going to last. There's one line where they say that their ratings depend on knowing the trends, but that's not really true. Sure, Animaniacs did use referential and meta humor, but that was only part of their shtick. They had lots of variety, but them trying so hard to make themselves trendy is part of the reason why the show isn't working. 2 years makes a big difference, and 2018 is just not 2020. Maybe these kind of jokes just aren't that suited for TV, since we can just meme on the internet, where everything is up to date. Plus, the sketches themselves are poorly thought out. For example, the last sketch of the season involved them calling back to the original, where they had a whole song dedicated to the presidents of the United States, but this time around they wanted to focus on the first ladies of the United States, which sounds interesting, but it was extremely mishandled. It started off pretty strong, but they only give Dot 2 minutes to sing it, even though the presidents got 3.5 minutes, so thanks a lot, Animaniacs. So instead they only name drop most of them, and then at the end of this fiasco, Dot pats herself on the back and says that the right man for the job was a woman, and then we get this really sad card admitting that they forgot to include Bess Truman. Was this part of the joke, or did they actually just forget her? We could have gotten this fun educational song, but instead it ended up being a total mess, just like how the rest of the season was a mess. I felt a lot of the jokes we did get weirdly contradicted each other. I understand continuity between skits probably isn't a priority, but maybe they should have spaced some of these out more, cause it was really jarring. In one skit, Yakko tells a man that this is a kid's show and he should not be bearing buns, referring to the man's butt. But in the very next skit, maybe a minute later, Pinky shows off his very bare butt, and they hold on it. This is way more Pinky than I ever wanted to see. Maybe these sketches should have been in 2 different episodes, because it was impossible to not notice. They lean really heavily into political humor, like with a skit about gun control and another skit that would have made Senator McCarthy very happy. The show always had political humor, but there was more variety before with all the different skits, so it wasn't so repetitive. Plus, I believe they were better written. Not to mention, we're constantly bombarded by politics every day from all angles. We even get political text that we didn't ask for, and that just wasn't the case in the 90s. So overall, the Animaniacs reboot fell flat. It had some good moments, but it felt more like a cheap cash grab than an actual reboot. They could have expanded on its previous segments instead of stripping them away entirely. Like imagine Katie Kaboom with social media. They could have gotten some pretty good commentary out of that. Instead, we got way too much meta and political humor, and the new skits didn't compare to the old ones. It would have been interesting to see what the original team could have come up with. Instead, they were shut out for no reason. So those were our thoughts. What did you guys think? Did you watch the original Animaniacs? And have you seen the reboot? What do you think about it? We'd love to hear from you. Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, everybody. Before we go, we want to give a shout out to our members: Caleb Nelson, Stutania, Tyrant Carnivore, Adam K, Shiny Orc Boy, Taylor Ramirez, The Rabbit Mancer, Dash Hound, Haley Kosheva, Raythulu, Hunter Rose, General Bolivar, Depth Charge Media, and Samaru163. If you'd like to become a member, you can hit the join button next to the subscribe button, or you can support us by buying us a coffee. Link will be in the description below. Thanks again for watching, we really appreciate it, and we'll see you all in the next video. Bye everyone. Bye guys.